challenging, though, is that there is a delay since we're doing this over the internet. And so if it seems like I interrupt you, I'm not meaning to. There's just a delay between, where we talk. So for when we listen to it, that can be a little bit frustrating because there tends to be a bit of a gap in between questions and answers.
Right.
But also when we're just conversing, sometimes it might feel like I'm interrupting you. I'm definitely not trying to. So ignore that. If it seems like I'm interrupting, you just carry on and keep talking because it's just to do with the time delay over the internet.
Okay.
Well, thanks for being willing to do this. Did I make you get up early, or are you an early riser?
You did not make me get up early. I am sometimes an early riser and sometimes not, but I was up this morning, so we're good.
Convenient for me. So, Jeff, before asking you any pipe-specific stuff, I'm curious what other stuff you love. What occupies, your time and your thoughts and your energy other than bagpipey stuff?
It's a good question. I like to. I'm not sure if this the right way to say it. I am committed to exercise. I'm not sure I'd say I like it.
Ah.
But and I do sometimes. But I'm trying to figure out. Sorry, this is not a good way of answering the question. But
No, this is great.
I used to be a runner.
Yeah.
And the last few years I've been having back problems. So I'm trying to negotiate a way to have some consistent exercise. Right now I'm walking, but the running is bothering my back. So anyway, so as far as what I spend my time on, I do some sort of exercise most days. Usually walking these days. And I enjoy stuff around the house. I enjoy yard stuff and stuff, those kind of projects. Always thinking of my next project. Which probably drives my wife crazy.
That's a list that never gets shorter, huh?
No, not at all. It gets longer. Yeah.
With running, have you ever been a competitive runner, or has it always been just to enjoy the sport?
Not really competitive. No, I didn't run in high school. I hated running in high school actually, and it was really about 10 years ago that when I was in college, I had some roommates who decided they were going to run the Deseret News Marathon. This was the 1997, so it was the 150th anniversary of the Saints coming to the Valley. And they decided, let's go do the marathon. And they were runners, and I thought, well, this sounds fun. And so I started running with them, and that's when I decided I liked running. It was social. There's a whole group of us that were running together and preparing for the marathon together. And the marathon was actually, it was a good experience, but it killed my knees and whatever. It was just really, sure. It was a painful experience, and I never want to do one again. But the whole preparation was fun. I just really enjoyed it, and it became a social thing for me. And I learned that I liked running, I think, beyond just the social. Just a second here. So, is the volume okay on this?
Yeah, it's coming through just great.
Okay.
I have a very simple sort of level check here, and it's looking great so far.
Okay, great. Yeah, I have a little level check on mine. It keeps going up into the yellow, and I thought, is that going to be a problem for you?
No, I think we're going to be fine. I'll put it through a condenser afterwards, and hopefully it'll just bring the highs and lows together a bit.
Okay. Anyway, so after that, I didn't run for a long time because my knees bugged me after the marathon, and every time I'd run, they'd bother me. And then 10 years ago, I just thought I want to start running again, so I started to it again, and I was really gradual about how I did it. And anyway, it's a long saga, but eventually I was able to run without knee problems again. And then I did actually start getting into some races, 5K, 10K sort of things. Actually, just 5Ks. And then there was a relay that we did at work that was really fun a couple of years. So sort of competitive because they were organized races, but I was never I'm going to win this race. Although I did win our Ward 5K 2 years in a row.
That'll probably make you feel good, right?
Right.
Next time you're given any sort of assignment, you can just be like, I ran faster than you, so I am I'll give you an assignment. Thank you very much. Some sense of superiority.
Right.
Since you've done a marathon, I'm curious what you think it is. I've never done a marathon. The farthest I've ever run without stopping was almost 3 miles. And that was an 11-minute pace, if I remember right. And I enjoyed the feeling. I still do try to do a jog now and again, but I've never been very good at it or anything like that. I not necessarily fell in love with it, though I do like the feeling you get, when I do run a bit. But a marathon, man, it baffles me. That is just so far.
Right.
And if I'm not mistaken, the history of the marathon is precisely that a man ran from Marathon to Athens
And died.
and died. Yeah. So, like, what are we doing? Did you feel that way after you ran that marathon? Were you kind of like, oh, I see why he fell over and died after delivering that news?
Yeah, it was a very physically trying, emotionally trying experience. And I have zero desire to do another one. I'm not one of these people who like I want to do a marathon every year. Yeah, I'm good.
And does it not blow your mind that that's not even like there are organized races, there are super marathons,
Yes,
It's
I have
not
a
enough
friend
for
who's
some
really
people.
into that.
That's
I have a friend
amazing.
who does like the 50 milers. I think she's done a 100 miler. Anyway, I
Wow.
just think that's just crazy. I mean, just the amount of time involved and the toll that takes on your body, and then the training that's involved. That's for me. That's the big thing with a marathon, as I've thought. Just the amount of training.
Hmm.
Um, I just can't devote that kind of time
Yeah,
to
it's not like you can just get
train.
up and go. You've got to prepare for it.
Right. And I didn't prepare well enough last time, which is part of my problem. But
Mhm.
yeah.
The the mental strength that it takes, I think, is at least as admirable, if not even more so, than the physical strength that it takes to. I mean, I how hard it is for me to push myself to 3 miles. I just can't even
Right.
imagine what a person is able to do with their mind to be able to push through to 50 or even 100 miles. It's amazing.
It's remarkable how your body adjusts to,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't imagine adjusting to 50 miles or even a marathon really. But I remember a few years ago when I started running again. The time I ran, I think I ran maybe a mile, and I was beat.
Mm-hmm.
And then but your body just gets used to it, and it's surprising how well your body adapts to things.
Mm.
And I never got to running lots. I think the longest I ran was like maybe 6 miles, but so I didn't even do a half. But um, at least in my most recent running.
It
But your body just adjusts, and you gain this ability you didn't have before. It's remarkable.
it seems like there is a crossover here to like sort of the that feeling that many of us get after we go through the holidays without playing our pipes much, and
Hmm.
then try to strike them in again. It's like, well, I can only play for about 2 minutes. And it's like, how did I do a parade?
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't, I don't know if drummers experience a similar thing. I'm sure that there's some dexterity that kind of goes away if you don't play for a while, and then you kind of feel it coming back. And surely there are some physical requirements to carry a drum for a long time as well. Um,
Yeah.
so, do you have any advice for a guy like me who tries to do a casual jog? And I think just as of like a week ago, I started getting shin splints.
Oh, yeah.
Is that just something all runners learn to deal with?
Um, I haven't had that too much. I did have some kind of shin splintish things once, and I think it's a stretching issue actually.
Oh,
Um,
really? That makes sense. I'm not a very flexible person. I don't focus a lot on
yeah.
stretching.
So for me, so here's the long part of the story that I didn't go into, but and I won't go into too long. But when I started trying to run again, like 10 years or so ago, my old knee pain came back, and it was really frustrating, and it took me months and a priesthood blessing and lots of other things, to get over that, and finally triggered it because it started coming back again, and I thought, oh, I think I'm going to give up, and I decided I'm just going to walk. I'm giving up on running because it just hurts all the time.
Mm.
And so I started walking with a friend in the mornings, and after we'd done that for a week or two, after we finished our walk, I was just feeling good, and I thought I'm just going to run a little bit, and I felt great.
Hmm.
And after that, we would walk every day, and then I would run, and what was different for me, I think, is that I had warmed up well.
Oh, I
Walk
see.
for like a mile and a half, and then I would go run for a few miles, and I felt fine, and my knee didn't bug me. Every once in a while it would bother me again, but I'd learned some stretches that I could do, and if my knee was bothering me, I'd stretch a little bit. And usually my knee would bother me if it had been, a few days or a week since I'd run, and then I would run, then my knee would bug me again. But usually if I would warm up with a good walk and I would do some stretching, my knee was fine. And so what I learned from that about stretching is stretching is important, but warming up is also important. And a lot of people they walk up. This is what you walk up, you go outside, and you run. But if you can warm either just a good long walk or some more dynamic stretching where you're like kicking your legs or kind of jogging in place, or there's various kind of dynamic stretching things you can do, or just actual stretching. But warming up before you stretch is helpful. Even walk around the block just to get your muscles loose, then stretch, then run. And there's some specific shin splint stretches. It's, if I'm remembering right, the shin splints are actually caused by tightness in your calf.
Interesting. It's interesting that you feel the pain elsewhere, but
right.
It's all connected, so I'm sure
yeah.
It makes sense.
And so I think the stretch doing at that time to try to help that was, standing at a curb, facing the curb, and you put your toe on the sidewalk and your heel down into the gutter, and you kind of push down on that to stretch your calf there.
Well, I'm going to give that a try, and I don't mean to turn everything that you say into a bagpipe allegory, but I do feel like there might be something here where,
Sure.
diving straight into the reel you've been working on sometimes might be okay, but maybe it's a good idea to run some of those fundamental exercises, do a scale of doublings and stuff like that before diving in. It might prove to be a more positive practice experience when playing bagpipes.
That's true. Loosen up your fingers.
And I always feel like I want to put in something about drumming, but I don't know enough about it. Do a set of paradiddles before diving into the music or something. I don't know. I'm sure the drummers are used to having to, translate things into drummer from listening, because of course pipers are long-winded, right? So we do so much talking.
Yeah.
Well, now do tell me a little bit, Jeff, about not just a little bit. Tell me all about how you came to bagpiping. Not just the band, though I do want to hear that. I love your story. But like, why do you like it, and how when do you first remember hearing bagpipes and stuff like that? Give me sort of the whole thing.
Sure. Can I ask the why you like it question first, because I'm afraid I'll forget it.
Absolutely.
Why I like it now is different than why I used to like it.
That sounds really interesting.
Why I like bagpipes, I mean, I love the sound, right? I've always loved the sound. But for me now, playing bagpipes, it's a form of service. I love playing for a funeral, and just how meaningful that is for people. It's one of my favorite things in the world, just to give something to someone who is really in need, and to see how it touches them and moves them. It's a powerful thing. It's a gift to me to be able to be a part of that, and to experience that time of shared mourning, and it's a feeling of love, and so I love playing for funerals. I love playing just at the cemetery. Sometimes I just go play there, and almost without fail, someone will come up after and off tears and just thanking me for playing. And so I love playing in a way that lifts people, and bagpipes do that in a really powerful, moving way, and I think a unique way. There's something about that sound that touches people. And this is a silly example, but a few years ago for Robert Burns Day at work, we do a treat day once a month. A treat day for January, and I made some haggis, and I piped in the haggis, and so I played my pipes down the hall and into our big room, and we had haggis, and one of the designers, after we were done, he said, "That sound, it just gets you, and it's true. There's something about the sound of bagpipes that it stirs your heart, and and so I think that bagpipes have this powerful way of touching. All music does, but something about bagpipes I think is unique about that, and maybe because they're often used with at funerals and meaningful occasions like that, they carry some of that weight.
Some sort of association might be there.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, Lizzie and I have played in Nauvoo for a few years. That also is a really meaningful experience to be able to combine this music that I love with my testimony of the gospel, and to share faith and spirit with people is a really powerful and delightful thing. And so for me, bagpipes have become that I love to do because it's a great way of giving to people,
yeah.
and receiving for myself in return.
And I think that anybody who hears this will know, but just in case, that playing at Nauvoo, that's Nauvoo, Illinois, where the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has, what is it? They own property and they have like a lot of missionaries there for sort of it's kind of a tourism kind of situation, right? Kind of people come there,
Yeah.
and then they do this pageant that involves bagpipes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's every summer for a few weeks they'll do this pageant, and then there's just a lot of stuff surrounding the people come, and so we play some mini concerts every day throughout the historical parts of Nauvoo, and then before the pageant every night we play a concert for an hour or so as people are arriving, and just it's an awesome thing to be able to do. We love it.
I've heard that, knowing I've never gone myself, but knowing a lot of people who have gone, they've told me about how it's not just of course there's a sort of a spiritual aspect to it for people who go and play, who are members of the church and are excited about that side of it, but it's also like the best bagpipe conditioning boot camp you could ever do, because you have to play for so many hours every single day in the heat.
Yeah.
You come back just like a superhero. You just could handle anything.
Absolutely. Yeah. That gave me so much. Before that, I was really struggling. Before the first time we met, I was really struggling to keep my pipes going, and I was getting better by then. But that experience, those 2.5 weeks of playing for hours and hours every day, and having people go over your pipes and adjust them and work with you every day, it was a boot camp. It was awesome. So back to your question of how did I get into it?
Yeah, tell me all about it.
I think I've always loved the bagpipes, and I think my memory is that my first exposure to bagpipes was 4th of July parade when I was a kid, and
was this the parade in Provo?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just always, I loved the parade in general, and I loved the bands, but the bagpipe bands are my favorite, and I'd love to hear the bagpipes come through. And it
may be too distant in memory, but I'm curious if you happen to have put A and B together and figure out which bands were playing when you heard them, back when you were a kid.
Yeah, I haven't been able to figure that out. It always seems like there were 2 or 3 in the parade back in the day.
Yeah, it would make sense if Utah Pipe Band was one of them. They being one of the older ones that's been around for the longest.
Yeah, I don't remember well.
Well, go on. I would like to hear more.
Yeah, but I just loved that, and so somewhere along the line I decided I'd love to play bagpipes, but it was always just kind of a thing of, I'd love to play bagpipes. Like, I'd love to see the Northern Lights. It was just this. Sure. That'd be cool to play the bagpipes. But we do have some Scottish heritage. My name is McClellan or whatever, and so there's some tie there. But mostly, I just thought it'd be cool. I'd love to play bagpipes. And when I was in my early 20s, my mom bought me a chanter and a little learn to play the bagpipes thing. It had a tape. It was back when we had tapes. and a little book, and it was those cheap Pakistani chanters. Mm-hmm. And I fiddled with it a little bit, but not really intently. And then, probably about 7 years ago, I'd come across a ukulele at my parents' house, and I was just fiddling around with it and having some fun with it. And it was years time, and I thought, I want to just get good at a new instrument. That's one of my New Year's resolutions, and I was thinking I could do the ukulele, or I've got that bagpipe chanter. I could do bagpipes, and I was debating between ukulele and bagpipes, and so I asked my daughter Lizzie. I said, "Okay, I want to learn an instrument. Should I do the ukulele or should I do bagpipes?" And she very enthusiastically and very quickly said bagpipes, and I was surprised by how much she embraced that. She said, "Oh, you should do bagpipes." And I thought, okay, I've got my answer. I'll do bagpipes, and so I started playing around with that old chanter, and it was really hard to make good sound with it.
Yeah, that's
And
gonna be a real challenge.
oh yeah, it was awful. And then, so for my birthday a couple months later, my wife got me a good chanter, and I started learning a few songs, and I was I was just teaching myself. I'd find things online or whatever and try to learn a few songs. I think I learned Amazing Grace, and then that summer, one day, I thought I should see if I can find some pipes. Well, and I started, listening to things on YouTube and learning more about pipes, and I learned about small pipes, and I thought, oh, small pipes, that might be a good way to get into it. And I looked on KSL.com once on the classifieds, and there was somebody selling a set of small pipes in Salt Lake for a few $100s, and I thought, that sounds really cool. And so I bought these small pipes and started playing with them, and I liked that. And I was by no means any good at all, but I was just learning, a few things. And then that fall, as school started, it was 14, I think. I think it was her 8th grade year, and at Mazer Prep, and there was an announcement that came through the first week or two of school saying, hey, there's this bagpipe band that's going to start practicing at our school, and they're offering free lessons for students. And Lizzie's like, hey, we've got some bagpipes. I can actually do that. And Lizzie was excited about it, and we thought, okay, great. And so I would take Lizzie to those lessons. And we thought, I don't know why we didn't get the message, but we thought that the free lessons were just for the students. So I would take Lizzie, and I would sit in the back, and she was using my chanter, and that went on for like a year. And then sometime in the spring, when we were at the park practicing, we were talking with Diana, and she mentioned something about how the lessons were free for anybody. I was like, what? Really? And then she started talking about this idea of we want to make a band, and I thought, wow, that's cool. And Lizzie and I got excited about this idea of a band, and until then we were just this is fun, let's learn to play bagpipes, and we're not going to spend any money on anything more than the small pipes. But then all of a sudden it became a very expensive project.
Yeah, can you imagine how much money you would have saved if Lizzie had enthusiastically said, oh, ukulele, learn ukulele.
Right. No kidding. Yeah, and we've also thought if she'd said ukulele, we might have been going to Hawaii.
Right, yeah. Instead of dealing with the gnats in Illinois, you might have been in Hawaii strumming on a ukulele instead.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's how we got into it. And then, it's taking lessons, and then we started buying the full bagpipes and the kilts and marching in the parades, and we loved it. It was awesome.
Well, and I mean, how many years was it until you were the pipe major of the grade 5 band?
That's a good question. Let's see. There was a year of chanter and a year of struggling with my pipes, and then a year of, I think, competing. I think it was probably one, two, three. I think it was probably 3 years.
That's so cool. It's a fast turnaround. It's not this. I don't think most people experience that path, Jeff, just in case you weren't aware that most people don't, within the number of years they can count on one hand, then start running the group. So it's very good of you, very brave of you to be willing to jump in and help with that. And you did it. You've done great.
Thanks. I really didn't know what I was doing. But.
Well, I was just talking to Scott about this, how, how much maybe the entire world is all just people faking it till they can make it, and that's okay.
Right. Yeah.
So where does it sit for you right now? Do you listen to bagpipes recreationally? Is it a thing that you would do for pleasure, or is it mostly kind of a I don't want to say work, but is it kind of task and goal oriented at this point?
I do listen to bagpipes recreationally. My family teases me about it. YouTube videos is my big thing. And I do have like a bagpipe Pandora station that I'll listen to sometimes, but mostly it's YouTube videos. Often we have a disabled daughter, and so feeding her is a little bit of a process. And so sometimes at night when I'm feeding her, I'll get my iPad out and I'll just listen to bagpipe YouTube videos while I'm preparing her food and feeding her and whatever. And other times with that, when I want a little bit of escape, I'll just go listen to some bagpipe YouTube videos.
Mm-hmm. Is there any, has she been able to give you any indication if she enjoys your bagpiping, or if she'd prefer you not play too close?
So I usually play in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been many times when I'll go down and play at night, like at 9 and when I come back up, she's asleep. And
okay, so it can't be too bad then.
It can't be too bad. And I sometimes think that the droning might kind of put her to sleep. But she's come to like some Scottish festivals and parades and things. And it's hard to really tell. She doesn't like react too much. So, yeah, I don't know.
I just know that my own experience with my children I've been kind of surprised at just how young they have either a strong preference for or even against the bagpipes. My oldest,
really?
I was sad for a while because he did not like the bagpipes one bit for a long time. He would run anytime I played and cover his ears and tell me to stop. And
did he come around?
He has now, yeah. He's 8 now, and I've just barely started teaching him on the chanter, and he seems excited about it. But then my youngest right now, my little girl, she will just run up and stand right under the chanter as I play my bagpipes, and I have to stop and tell her, no, you can't do that unless you're wearing earplugs or something, sweetie. You're gonna blow your brains out, with the sound. But it's funny how from one kid to the next, depending on their age, they have a preference or not,
Yeah.
So do you have any favorites? Any favorite bagpipers to listen to, be it YouTube videos or otherwise? Pipers or pipe bands or bagpipe adjacent people, anything like that?
I'm not too picky. I do like, is it Lincoln Hilton?
Yeah.
Is his name.
Yeah.
I like his stuff. It's all really well done, and it's well produced and good music, and I like a lot of it, but there's some of them that it's just somebody's phone video in Scotland, and the sound isn't so good,
Yeah.
I don't love those, but sometimes they're great too. So I more like the well produced ones. So his are great. Dark Isle Piper, is that her name?
Dark Isle Piper, yeah.
I've enjoyed some of hers. Bagpiper, Josh Anderson in Salt Lake.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know him?
Not necessarily personally, no.
Okay.
I think we have met a couple times, but just
actually, sorry, this is a total tangent. I met his wife this week. So she just started working at BYU, and I didn't make the connection at first, but she's doing design for another area on campus, and she wanted to meet with me to learn about our department because we do publications design. And so we set up a Zoom meeting because that's what we do these days. And the Zoom meeting comes on, and I see her face, and I'm like, she looks really familiar. And then it took me like 2 seconds, and it connected of his videos.
Yeah,
and,
that's right. Like he did that Scotland the Brave video that. Well, I think she's probably featured in a few of his videos, hasn't she?
Yeah. Anyway, so I think he's good. I like his stuff.
Do you know what I love?
really? Go ahead.
I don't mean to. Just before you move on to the next one, just on the note of Josh Anderson, we've emailed a little bit, partly because we've been trying to put together this this book and some learning videos for the band, and I wanted to have some sort of additional. We're somewhat limited in what we can do, and so I just kind of wanted to have a few resources to provide to anybody to say, like, if this is good and you want more, here are some places you can go. And he does his bagpipe master courses, and he teaches and stuff. So I reached out to him about that, and he's very friendly and nice about it. But the one of the things that stands out to me is he's got. I love design stuff. He's got a beautiful website. He's got a great logo. And he's got some T-shirts that are just really cool bagpipe T-shirts, like just some of the coolest designs I've seen. As far as looking at design kind of thing. What's that word? Aesthetic design.
Yeah.
Really great, really really great. And he,
So I
of
think
course,
all
he
that
does
was
make.
designed by his wife, actually.
Oh, so she did all that. Well,
I
that
think
makes sense
so.
if
That,
she's working.
yeah,
That would make sense if she's working in design. Well, then
yeah.
she is one of my favorite bagpipe-related designers. I
Oh.
love some of the stuff that they've made, and of course, the video production that they do is also excellent.
Yeah, and she told me she's the video master and all that. So she and the photographer and like all the still photos on the site are hers, and she
Mm.
designed and produced the website and does the videos and whatever. So yeah, she's
Well,
really talented.
forget Josh then. Like everything I admire about him is basically his wife's work.
Right. Right. Yeah, I was really impressed when she told me that. Wow, that's some good stuff.
No, he's a great piper. His playing is excellent.
Yeah. So some of the other pipers that I like to listen to are actually either small pipes or do you say it Uilleann? I'm never quite sure I'm saying it right.
Yeah, I think so. I think it is pronounced Uilleann, but I'm also not entirely sure.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, man.
Yeah, I love those sounds.
I'll tell you, if money were no object, a set of Uilleann pipes is absolutely top of my list for things that I would have.
Yeah,
Just
that
love
would be
that
cool. It's like really complicated to play.
Yeah, I'm sure I would spend the rest of my life just trying to figure them out.
Right.
You got to love the process, right? Love the process instead of focusing on
Yeah.
becoming a pro.
Right. Right. I've actually been wanting to ask you. You have a set of bellows small pipes.
Yeah.
How do you like the bellows experience?
Personally, I do like it a lot. And at first, I liked it just because it's a little bit different, So it's just kind of fun to do something different. After having blown into a bag for a long time, it's just any kind of change is kind of refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
But part of it is that I'm really really drawn to Uilleann pipes, and so anything that got me closer to kind of thinking, well, if I play my small pipes with bellows, then if someday I do manage to get a set of Uilleann pipes, I'll at least be able to squeeze the bellows,
Mm-hmm.
But part of it also is through a piper named Timothy Cummings, who's
Yes, I've seen his stuff as well. I really like him.
he's one of my favorites, man. He's so wonderful. Through him, I came to know about this art form called, most people would just call it pipe singing, where you just basically you sing and accompany yourself with your own bagpipes.
Cool.
And of course, I have seen people sing, with Highland pipes, but you can imagine challenging to blow it up and then you sing a harmony note and then you blow some more.
Right.
But yeah, if you want to do pipe singing, playing with bellows is kind of a requisite, and so that's kind of my main motivation for having them and playing them. But I do love it, and I would recommend it to anybody. I think it's a really fun way to play with bellows.
Cool.
And I had a jaw surgery a little while ago too, and during recovery, that was the only way I could play, so I was glad to have them then.
Right. Yeah. Do you find that the sound of the bellows small pipes is different than your mouth blown small pipes, or is it the same?
No, I actually use them on exactly the same set of pipes. I just switch between bellows and mouth blown. But one benefit to the bellows is that you don't change the temperature or moisture levels inside your pipes. And so all of my small pipes have synthetic reeds. So if I'm not, unless it's like some extreme temperature changes, like if I'm playing outdoors, the inside of that bag and every reed is going to stay bone dry and at the same temperature. So once I set the tuning, it pretty much stays the same. And I think that's probably one of the main benefits to playing with bellows, especially if you're, small pipes you can get in concert pitches. And so if your motivation is to be able to play with an accompanist of some sort or join in a group of other musicians, being able to set your tuning and have it stay consistent, that's helpful for sure.
Cool. Do they have, I think they do. I think I've seen this, that like actual reed, not synthetic reeds, but I don't know, natural reeds for small pipes. And do they sound different, do you think?
Yeah, they have them. Honestly, I've never played on them, with the exception of one chanter reed. All the drone reeds I've ever played in, and to be, for context, I've only ever owned maybe 3 or 4 different sets of small pipes. And it's an expensive addiction that I try to sort of sell them before I get another set so that it kind of covers itself. But my poor wife, she's very patient and sweet with me in my strange and very. She's like, why couldn't you have grown up obsessed with baseball cards? You could buy so many baseball cards. Like why does it have to be bagpipes?
Right.
But yeah, as far as the sound quality goes, I would imagine there is a difference, but I can't speak to it personally from my own experience. Most of what I've done has all been synthetic reeds on pipes from different makers, sure, in different pitches and stuff like that, but always synthetic.
Cool.
So Jeff, who do you think is your biggest fan when it comes to playing bagpipes? Who is it that just loves to hear you play?
It's a good question.
And they don't have to know, so go ahead.
Right. I think I've often thought that my family just tolerates it.
Yeah.
But there's been some times lately where I've been playing and I come in and my wife says, that sounded really, and I think, oh, maybe she likes this. But there are people in my neighborhood who just rave about it sometimes, just how much they love hearing me play.
That's nice. I think any piper.
Sure, there's some of them that curse me for it too,
Yeah.
just not to my face. But
I think those ones probably loom large in most of our consciousnesses when we have to play in our backyard or something. We think, oh, who am I driving crazy right now?
Yeah.
Do you, when you're playing like at cemeteries and things like that, do you sort of rotate and change where you go, or do you have some favorite spots?
I live not too far from the Orem Cemetery, so I'd pretty much play there.
Now, kind of to our previous conversation, if money were no object, what bagpipe-related item would you currently possess, be it an instrument, uniform part, or even travel or anything else like that? What would be your sort of your golden item or experience?
I think I would love to get a really nice. My small pipes are polybanco, which are great, but and they're like completely maintenance free, and I absolutely love that. Right?
Sure, that's never a problem. Yeah.
I had the money. I would love a really nice set of bellows blown wood small pipes.
Mm-hmm.
There was one I saw for sale the other day for like $1,500 that looked. It was a guy in like Ogden or something. Looked like a really nice set, but.
Are you familiar with there's Ross Morrill makes bagpipes, including small pipes, and they are beautiful.
I think that was actually the maker.
I believe it, yeah, because he lives up there, yeah, and he does make. They're beautiful. He does it with different kinds of wood, and he does a lot of designs that are there'll be a dark wood against a lighter colored wood, so like the ferrules or the accents would be either dark or light, and man, they are so pretty, and I have heard them played and they sound beautiful too.
Cool.
I've been drooling over Fred Morrison real pipes for years. Those are black wood usually.
Yeah. So I think small pipes, a nice set of wood small pipes, if money were no object. But the other thing that I think I'd like to get a blackwood solo chanter for my Highland pipes. I'm not positive this is true, but I have the sense that solo chanters are just a little more mellow than a band chanter. Is that true?
I've felt that way. I've talked with other pipers about it too and wondered, and I still have no conclusion to what degree it might be a placebo effect. But I definitely, I don't own a Blackwood solo chanter myself, but I've borrowed one in particular for a very long time from Zach that it felt somehow like playing on a cloud or like playing on butter. It just was like more mellow or smooth or something.
Yeah.
And I know that Swan recently got one of those infinity chanters. I don't know if you've seen those before. Who is it that did it? I think R.G. Hardy. I could be wrong about that though. But whomever did it, they looked at the chanters of a lot of sort of world-class soloists and kind of tried to figure out like what aspects of the chanter, its physical design, etc., might draw really high quality players to these chanters, and then kind of tried to make an amalgamation of like all the best aspects of these chanters. And one of the things about that chanter is that if you can imagine the holes where your fingers go, rather than having like a hard ridge around the hole, it's been sanded down and smoothed down to where I don't know how to describe it, but when you play on that chanter, rather than playing on something hard, it definitely feels like you're playing on something soft. And I think that probably that effect on the example chanters they were looking at is probably just from the person playing that chanter so much,
Right.
but they send them to you like pre-worn, as it were,
Nice.
already in the sweet spot.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
I think there is something to it. I think there is something special about those Blackwood chanters, though I couldn't speak to scientifically why it is that way.
Yeah. I thought I'd read somewhere that it might be that some of the solo chanters have a slightly narrower bore,
Oh,
so they're slightly less brash in their sound.
yeah, that makes sense.
But I'm not 100% positive that that's the case. I've seen little hints at that somewhere, and anyway.
Mm.
But
Is there anything, Jeff, about your experience playing bagpipes, be it soloing or playing with a group, that you would love to be able to sort of share? Like, if you could bundle up this experience, the way it feels, etc., and could share it with your friends and family who don't play bagpipes. I guess really what I'm getting at is, what's your favorite thing about playing bagpipes? But maybe that's a way to frame it. Go with it as you will. What do you love about it?
hmm. Um, it's a good question. I think I think I'm going to come back to what I said before of playing like at a funeral, and or at some other service where people just really feel touched by it. That is, it's a precious, sacred experience. And Lizzie's only played at a couple of funerals with me, but I remember the first one that she played out with me. She had that same experience, and when we were done, she was like, you know, if all we did, maybe I said it, I can't, one of us said it. If all we did was play at funerals, it would be worth all the effort of learning to play bagpipes. And there was this sense, we both had this feeling of that was just really moving and powerful. And it's just, especially at a funeral, when people's hearts are tender and they're feeling sorrow, and it brings comfort, it brings peace, it expresses. It's sort of a mournful sound, right? So in some way, it expresses. It's cathartic, maybe, and it expresses the sorrow they're feeling, and in that joint shared expression, there is comfort given.
That's an
Being a
interesting
part of
insight. I
that
think
with
that
someone
is
is
something to.
powerful. Yeah.
Well, I agree with you entirely. I mean, I think about it every time I play a funeral. Like, man, how many of these have I done? And still, I don't know. Maybe I'm just an especially emotional person, but I usually at least tear up a bit. I mean, you have to keep control so that you can play your instrument. But so often at a funeral, you're there before the family arrives, and so you're seeing people show up, and so as they get there, you're kind of taking it all in, and it builds up to where then there will be graveside commentary and prayers and things like that. And so you end up kind of learning about this person, and maybe more
Mm-hmm.
particularly the relationship that this person had with the people who are there mourning them. And I mean, how can you not be affected by that? And don't we sit in a
Right.
privileged position that, like, usually for a person, the funerals they attend would be the few people in their own family, who pass away. And of course, those are tender experiences that are, you know, going to stand out in anybody's mind. But not a whole ton of people get to sort of look in this way on that experience that's happening in other families and for other people. And sometimes at a regular frequency. A piper might end up at multiple funerals in a month, and
Mm-hmm.
you'd think that you'd get immune to it at some point, and just have an untouchable heart. But I don't think that happens. That's just a very real experience that you can't really be cold to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
So, at this point, you decided a few years ago that you were going to get real good at a musical instrument, and you're getting real good at bagpipes. Are there any other musical instruments that are kind of calling your attention that you kind of think, I'd like to learn to play that sometime?
At this point, just other bagpipe,
Mm-hmm.
small pipes. I do have an Irish whistle, two Irish whistles now, and I have a bar run, and so I'd love to get good at all those and figure out how to do them together somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you have any sort of pre-performance ritual ways that you, be it sort of mental exercises or physical things you go through with your instrument or your music before you're going to go play at a funeral or a competition or any kind of performance?
Not too much, really. I mean, I warm up with, I have a little warm-up routine that I do with the scale and some doublings and whatever, but nothing more significant than that.
Is that warm-up routine something sort of your own invention that's come together over the years you've been playing, or is it something you picked up from a book or from another piper?
No, it's just come together, and part of it was, and I've added things to it as I thought I need to work on. The first thing I added to it was the D throw, and so I'll do a scale, and I do a scale, and then I do it faster, and I do it faster and faster, and my goal there is to do it really fast and have it even, and but I I'll get pretty fast even, and then I get what's really jumbled, and I'm trying to get that better, and then I'll do doubling. I'll do the D throws, and then I do the Toraluas, and then I do a doubling on every note going up and down, and then I do what's it called? Is it a grip?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a grip, and I'll do a grip through the scale as well. And I think and the grip is one that I just added. I think that's it was probably about a year. There was some song that we were doing that I think my grips were not very good, and I thought I need to work on grips, so I added grips. But.
What's your current instrument setup? What kind of pipes do you play?
I play. It's a. What's the name of it?
Sorry, I maybe should have allowed you to prepare for that question because I'm curious, like what kind of pipes, what kind of.
It should be an easy question, and I know it. why am I blanking on it?
Maybe the
it
Calum?
starts with.
That's a.
No, it's not. It's a lesser known.
Oh, of course, I can see your pipes in my mind. They're beautiful.
It's a P. It starts with a P, I think. I'm sorry.
And now I'm trying to think. It might come to you, but while you're letting your sort of the back of your brain work on it, will you tell me the story about how you tried to get a mount repaired on your pipes?
Right. So I have some imitation ivory ring caps, and one of them, when I got them, a couple of them had minor chips, and then one of them had a big chip break off once, and I glued it back on, and then later I noticed there was a big chip missing, a really big chip, like a third of the ring cap gone.
And missing as in lost, like you didn't have it sitting in your case or anything like that.
Yeah, I have no idea where it is, so I couldn't glue it back on like I'd done the other chip. And so and it's still like that. Very good. Pettigrew, that's the name. That's the Pettigrew pipes. Anyway, so the chip, it's just missing, and it doesn't look great, but it's okay. And I started thinking, how would I repair it? And I thought, the rest of my pipes don't have any ivory on them. They don't have the lines on them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they've got some nickel ferrules throughout. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice to just have a nickel ring cap instead of the ivory? And so I started looking around. I emailed a few people and found, I actually contacted Pettigrew in Scotland. Is the son of the pipe maker who made my pipes, but he said that he's probably the one who because he worked for his dad. But now he has his own pipe making thing, and he said he could fix them, and he could put nickel on there instead of just repairing the ivory.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, that's awesome, and he gave me a great price, way cheaper than the people I'd contacted in the States, cheap enough that it was worth shipping them all the way to Scotland. And so I took the top.
Or so you thought, right?
Or so I thought, yes. So I took the top parts of the 3 drones and packaged them up and shipped them off to Scotland. last October, I think,
Mm.
and I thought it would be just a few weeks, and after a couple of weeks, I got an email, I think, saying that there was I'm forgetting the word. Anyway, some sort of I had to pay a customs fee
Mm.
on the importing of the pipes, and it was and and I called on it, and I thought they said it was like a couple dollars.
Mhm.
I was like, okay, no problem. And and then I got an email from Pettigrew like days later, and he said we got the shit. They came to us with a notification that the pipes were ready for us to pick up, but they said that the customs due was $100 or pounds actually,
Mm.
and and they said we don't want much, and do you want us to pay that much? And I said no way,
Mm.
and so I did some checking, and there was nothing I could do about getting it changed, and the notification said if we didn't pay it by this much, it would be returned to sender by this much time. And so I thought, okay, I'll just wait, and they'll just return it to me after a few weeks. And a few weeks came and no pipes, and I could check online and see the status of them, and it still said they were in the same place.
Mm.
And it was like a month later, and they were still, according to the online thing, they were still there. And I tried calling people and couldn't get good answers, and then finally, about 2 months after I'd shipped them off, it changed, and it said that they were in like New Jersey or something. And then for the next few days, I watched them as they went all the way across the United States, Salt Lake City, and thought, okay, in the next couple of days they'll be back. And then the next thing I know, they're in San Francisco,
They just
and
kept
then they
going.
bounced around various places in San Francisco, and then finally they came back to Salt Lake and came to me. But it was just this crazy saga of
Goodness.
anyway, and my pipes are still broken. But I've thought if I end up going to Scotland sometime,
Take them
I'll
with you,
take
right?
them with me
Yeah.
and go have him fix them.
Oh man. Well, I saw you'd made, maybe it was a social media post or something, where you put up a photo of them and a short summary of the saga that they've been through, and you said
Yeah.
something like, I love these broken pipes, you know. I'm so glad to have them back, you know.
Right. Yeah. Well, I borrowed your drones for
That's
I
right.
think a month or
Luckily
so
I had some
during that.
spares. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. So Jeff, this is how do you feel about pineapple as a pizza topping?
Oh, I love it.
Did I already ask you that question?
No, you didn't.
Okay.
But yes, I wish I could get it more often, but people I get it with usually don't like it.
Oh,
But Canadian
interesting.
bacon pineapple is my favorite pizza.
Mm. Yeah, man. Well, I don't know if I could pick a favorite pizza, but I do love that one for sure.
Yeah.
My son has asked me, I don't know why he's so interested in it, but multiple times in the last few weeks he's asked me, if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be? It's pizza every time. I've already decided this. Years hence, I decided this. Well, Jeff, is there that? I mean, our listenership is going to be the band, I'm sure. You know, I can't imagine this will go much further than that. So it's a small audience that you're familiar with. Is there anything you'd like to sort of share? You know, experiences you have, advice, or just words of encouragement, or affirmations, or anything as we sort of button this interview up.
I think the other part that I love about pipes, and you mentioned the band, and that's what brought this to mind, is the sense of community. I love playing my bagpipes, but I love playing them with good. And I think our band has a really friendly, warm culture that I love, and I love the friendships that I've made there, and the chance to spend time together playing, although I haven't done it for a long time. But I really value that as well. I appreciate the good people. I appreciate their kindness and the service. And that's been a huge gift to me, that we got free lessons. That's amazing. And Zach and Diana and you, and and so many others who've spent time teaching me and Lizzie pipes. just a profound gift, and so patient and so kind through all of that. It's been really nice to feel welcomed into this bagpipe family, and I love that. I'm really grateful for that aspect of it as well.